The owner of this car was frustrated because it wouldn't start, and he thought he had a security lockout. So he took took the covers off the steering wheel here to access the ignition switch, and then he cut a white wire that he felt that would get him a bypass if it was the security system lockout. Well, in the course of troubleshooting it, I looked at the switch, the ignition switch, took it apart, looked inside, and fixed his wiring kind of mistake because it turned out not to be a security system problem. And in this video, I'll show what I did to check out the security aspect of it and rule it out as a non-start issue. So unplug the wire from the ignition switch, and now we can kind of see what he did. He cut this white wire. He did that because this is a way that has been used in the past, and he's watched a video to basically disable or override the passcode system so you can start your car. So we're taking out the ignition switch, and we're going to have a look at that resistor, whose signal, when the car is put into the start position, flows through that white wire and is read by the passcode system to determine if it's a valid start. This one back here is harder. Not that hard. Okay, it's not going to come out in that position. Okay, to get it out, turn the key basically to the on position. And out it comes. This switch has a two-piece case, and you can carefully pry it apart. There's some locking tabs, not really designed to be opened up like this, but hey, you can do it. Just be careful not to break it. And then we can see the single circuit board in there. And there's the resistor in the middle, where the signal goes out through that white wire. And we're just going to examine this and see if everything looks okay. There has been some reports of gummy grease in here that can cause problems, cause a higher resistance. That would also cause a problem, but I don't really see anything with that. Grease looks pretty pliant. There's the resistor, doesn't look overheated, solder looks good. These wipers that sweep on the traces and make contact, electrical contact, also look good. They're not bent or corroded. Now we're going to check the resistance of the passcode resistor. Make sure we have a good stable reading, and it's in the range where it should be. 1.24K, that's a good reading. So we are okay there. Okay, now I'm going to put a toggle switch where that white wire was cut, and it was rather sloppily done. Rather than just put a wire in, we're going to put a toggle switch, and the reason for that is that there's a little kind of a hack with these cars where you can open that white wire while the car is running, and the car will then, from then on, unless the battery is disconnected, will ignore any problems in the passcode system and allow it to start reliably. So putting a piece of shrink tubing on the wire too. I'm going to try to do a nice clean job of this. Okay, I'm feeding this wire through now, and I'm going to try to locate a position nearby where it can't be inadvertently activated, because if it was when the car wasn't running, the car would then go into a lockout condition. We don't really want that. Okay, I'm tinning all the wires now before I go ahead and solder it. Ideally, you'd want to twist them together, but this position, these wires are fragile enough and short enough that I'm a little bit afraid to do that. So we're just going to tin them and then apply heat from the soldering iron to bond them together. In a tight position like this, helping hands really help. I'm going to mount the switch right here using an existing 7mm fastener just to the right lower panel. I was prepared to make a bracket to mount this out of sheet metal and just bend it, but then I found this in my scrap box, and it happens to be just about perfect. We're going to have to make this a little bit bigger. So I used a circular file, took a couple of seconds, got it big enough to fit over. Let's mount it. First I'll put the little label on so the owner knows which way is on and which way is off. And then mount the nut. Not a bad idea to check and make sure this switch is actually in the closed position. So when I try to start it, it doesn't go into lockout, and it's good. Okay, we'll throw this back together. Now the previous owner of this car had warned the buyer that it did occasionally lock you out with that security light coming on, where you have to wait 10 minutes. And he was concerned about it, and that's always been in his head since he bought the car. But now I'm going to give him the option with this toggle switch to take it out. What you have to do is flip that toggle switch when it's running, when the car's already running. And then it goes into a mode called fuel enable, where it from then on is going to ignore the security system. In fact, the security system's basically disabled, and it'll basically start every time, unless you disconnect the battery. So I put that in there for an option for the driver. The actual problem with this car turned out to be a battery cable, and I have another video on that where I solved that problem, and I'll throw up a link. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.